instantaneously, whatever other word that the Tsar said that I can hook up in there, then you need to pray and you need to praise. How many of you ready for a change? Amen. How many of you ready for a sudden change? Amen. And then you need to pray and you need to praise. Amen. Then you need to pray and you need to pray. Why? Because when you're praying to the one that can help. Right. Amen. You're praying to the one that can help. If you can't do it on your own or do it by yourself or figure it out in your own mind, then you need help and you should go to somebody that's got more power and more knowledge than you. Why not call out on God? It says, and suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken, and immediately all of the doors were opened, and everyone's bands were loosed. I'm telling you, God teaches some principles here. We just keep thinking that if we can just make it through this, if I can just muster through, if I can make it through the next week, if I can just get on through, if I can just roll my head and roll my eyes and just get on to the next thing, I'm going to be okay. But what I told you is sometimes it's not about you. And the thing is the reason you got to praise and you got to pray is because God has somebody watching you that needs to get free, that can't pray and can't praise. And it's your prayer and your praise that's not just going to set you free, but that's going to set them free. Amen. Amen. Come on, see, we want to help somebody. Show them that my prayer and my praise can not only get me free, it can get you free. Amen. You get blessed just by association. Matter of fact, you don't even have to be beside me. You just need to be in the vicinity of where I'm at. You could be in the baddest condition as I'm in, and we all can come out just because one person or two people hooked up, agreed, and decided we're going to pray and we're going to praise. In other words, it's like the word says, a sanctified woman sanctified the whole house. Guess what? Somebody that prays and somebody that prays can loose the bonds of all those that are around. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? You got some people that you know need to be free, and you keep wondering why they can't come out, why they can't get loose. Then maybe you need to pray, and you need to praise around them, so that even though they don't pray and they don't praise, your prayer and your praise will loose them. Amen. Come on, I'll tell you. He says that everyone's bands were loosed. Now this is what I really like. He says that the keeper of the prison, awakening out of his sleep and seeing the prison doors open, he drew out a sword and would have killed himself, supposing that the prisoners had been fled. But Paul cried out with a loud voice, saying, "Do thyself no harm, for we are all here." How many of you all know of a situation now, if you were to go down to Mecklenburg County Jail, some people start praying and praising, the doors flew open, handcuffs fell out. How many of y'all think that folk would still be sitting up in there talking about, "You don't hurt yourself, we here, we all here, don't worry about it, we ain't leave, we ain't go nowhere, we don't want you to lose your job, we don't want you to get in trouble, we still here"? See, that's a miracle right there. You know, the handcuffs fell off, the doors opened up. Well, we'd have been, the only part that would have been panic and chaos is people running over each other trying to get out of the jail. Right. But in the midst of prayer and praise, there was no panic. When the people got loosed, they kept their heads about them because they understood that this was a supernatural happening and something had taken place by God because of the two men of God. And not only did they want to not leave the prison, I believe they stayed because they said, "We need to know what's up with Paul and Silas. We need to talk to these guys. We need to understand what they just did. We need to know what they got going on so good that they can pray and they can praise and it can break the bonds that hold us and loosen the prison door." I mean, they got something that we need to know about. Amen. How many times have somebody said, you got something that I want to know about? It's funny. I don't know if it's true or not. You know, Elder Jones could have been saying tell a lie, but anyway, just in case it was true, I remember her when we came back, and I remember they were at Victory, I think it was, Christian Center, and we were talking to them, and we were excited to find out that they were saved and in the church, and she was like, I heard that Johnny Haynes got saved and was preaching, and I figured I better get in the church and get saved because something was happening. You know, so I don't know how true that was, but that was something she said. She's like, if you got saved, I knew I had to get somewhere. And you got to understand, it was because me and her were partners. Whatever I did, she did. So she knew I was evil. She was evil. We were both cunning, conniving, and ripping off folk. So she knew. So that's why she knew that if I got saved, that I was trying to get out the fire, and that she needed to get out the fire too. But when was the last time that you had somebody tell you that, you know what, the reason I'm holding on is because I see your faith? I had a pastor tell me a short time ago, he said, the only reason I didn't quit is because every time I came down there, you still preaching. You sick in preaching. You'd have had a heart attack in preaching. You'd have had a stroke in preaching. You in the hospital, out of the hospital, you still preaching. He said, and I be wanting to quit just because I'm tired and mad and frustrated. And he said, but if Pastor Haynes can keep preaching, I gotta keep going. And I was mad at him because I was like, shoot, I wanted to quit. Now I can't quit because you're going to quit. You depended on me. I'm like, shoot. But your witness ought to shape somebody in such a way that they don't want to do anything wrong because they see that you are doing it right.
It's true.
Where is our witness? When we going through stuff, do we act like everybody else act when we going through stuff? When stuff on the job is bad, do we curse and fuss and say, I ain't going to work, I'm coming in late too. Ain't used me being here, ain't nobody else here. I'm going to take 2 hour lunch because everybody taking 2 hour lunch. I mean, if they can take 2 hours, I can take 2 hours. I ain't going to be the only one in here working and doing stuff. And I mean, do we act like that? Or do we say, you know what, they paying me a salary to work from 8 to 5. I'm going to be here from 8 to 5. They told me I had an hour for lunch. I'm going to do my hour and come back. It doesn't matter what other people do. I'm not like other people. I serve a risen Savior. I am blood-bought. I am born again. I am committed to God, not just to man. I mean, how do we act? People are not just looking at us to see how we do in other things. They're looking because you're Christian and you say you love the Lord and you say that He's all powerful and you say that He changed your life and made you different. So they want to see you different when you're going through.
That's true.
They know everybody can smile when they get a raise.
Right.
Everybody can work hard when they get extra pay.
Right.
That ain't nothing. That's what the world do. Jesus said, you know what? If you can love like the world loves, if you love people when they love you, I mean, you're not doing nothing. How are you acting in your midnight hour? And there's people watching you. Do you really think that Paul and Silas was worried about who in prison was watching them in prison, in the inner prison? Or they were just being faithful to God? He says, then he called, this is the part, I had to get to it because this is the part that really kind of blew my mind. He says, then he called for a light and sprang in and came trembling and fell down before Paul and Silas. Now, didn't it say that Paul and Silas saw him, they pulled out the sword, getting ready to kill himself, and they cried out, stop, we all here? Now, it's so dark that he had to have a light to see that, but Paul and Silas knew that he was going to kill himself, stopped them. They knew that everybody was still there, and could say, and they get it all in the dark. See, you're talking about a prison at midnight, before the light switch, before the light bulb. They had to light a torch, and you know they didn't care about the prisoners sitting up reading or nothing. They ain't had internet and TV, and they ain't had none of that then. They were back in the inner parts of the prison, dark in the midnight, and they couldn't see a thing. And yet Paul cries out and tells him not to hurt himself because everybody's there. And I guess the prison guard is really freaking out because he's like, I see the doors open, heard the chains fall off, and it's dark. Everybody's got to be gone. And Paul stops him. He hears a voice tell him to stop, don't hurt himself. He lights the thing and runs inside, and he falls down at Paul's feet because he's saying they must be some kind of God or must serve some kind of awesome God. Because they were able to break the chains and loose the doors, and they remained here in the dark. It was dark. They could have walked out. They could have walked out. They didn't have to even run and trip over each other. They could have walked out. It says he fell down before Paul and Silas and brought them out and said, Sirs, what must I do to be saved? One of the things, the other thing I like about this is just letting you know that a lot of times when people get saved is because they see a supernatural manifestation of God in their presence. Some of the people are not going to get saved with your arguments, with you fussing about scripture, with you thinking that you're smarter and more intelligent and more in depth than they are. Because some of the worst sinners know the Bible better than some of the best Christians. And they study it to argue with you. Ain't that right, Mark? Because he used to do it. Study it to argue. It's okay. But see, now that he's saved, it's come in handy that he studied. But we got to understand that as the body of Christ, there is an expectation that supernatural things occur in our midst. You understand what I'm saying? How are you going to keep telling people about that God is a great God, a supernatural, wonder-working God that can do all things, that can turn, make everything out of nothing at all, but then nothing ever happens in your life that supernaturally explains that God is moving on your behalf? Or let's put it this way. How many supernatural things are happening in your life that you are afraid to tell people it was God? That's probably more like it. Because when I was diagnosed with cancer, I acted just like the rest of y'all. I didn't want to talk to nobody. I didn't want to see y'all. I didn't want to tell nobody. I just wanted to talk to God, argue with God, fuss with God, and tell God, how dare you? But then God just told me, shut up and do what they tell you to do. And I'm going to bring you out of this. And I'm going to deliver you. And because you're going to do it with grace and with silence, he said, when you come out, some people will not even know that you ever had it. And then when it's made known to them that you had it and you came out of it, some of them are going to be amazed. And the first thing they're going to ask you is, how'd you do that? And I can tell them all day, well, I went to Levine Cancer Center, I went to Duke University, I went to this, I went to that. And guess what? All those was after the fact when every one of them said, oh, well, it's been too long, ain't nothing we can really do about it. But then I went through, as I'm going through some of the treatment that other people are going through, I'm looking at the numbers thin out. I keep coming every day, and I'm a little sick. And when I come in, people coming in on stretchers that were walking in, people coming in balled up in the corner, where they were normally sitting in the chair, people coming in, breaking down and crying because now they've been told that there's nothing they can do. People not coming back in, and me and a couple of guys are asking, hey, where's Mr. So-and-so? Well, it's not good, he's such and such. And the whole time we sitting there thinking, well, we going through and it's so bad, but what we realized is we could walk in every day and we walked out every day. So look at God. And the thing is that it wasn't that God was doing it just for me. He was doing it because he said, there are going to be people around you that have what you have and going through what you're going through, and you're going to be able to speak to them and tell them, guess what? God can bring you out of this. Have you ever gone through something and you wonder why it didn't take you out, but it took out 5 other people that you knew, and you're saying, you know what, that was the same thing that such and such died from, but here I am. God didn't just do that just to preserve you, just to preserve you. He did that so that somebody around you could see that he is still in the supernatural manifestation business.
Amen.
God could have had angels come in, blind their eyes, sneak Paul and Silas out, and put them on their way. But he said, you know what? They're praising me and they're worshiping me. And I want everybody to know that the God that they're singing to and that they're praying to can supernaturally do whatever he needs to do. He said, and I don't have to do it by hook or crook. I can just do it. He said, I can do it. As a matter of fact, I can do it so well that when it's done, the man that's supposed to lock them up is going to be the one that releases them. He said, and in the process, just as collateral damage, I'm going to save him and his whole family. How many of y'all know you need whole families that need to be saved? You got folks that need to be saved, whole households. God is trying to tell us that if we're going to get to a place where people are seeing the supernatural manifestation of God and whole households are going to be saved and people are going to be delivered and set free, it's not going to come from your rolling your eyes, your argument, your great biblical dissertations. It's not going to come from you thumping them with the Bible. It's not going to come because you come to church every week. He says it's going to come because you're dedicated to pray and to praise me, and I'm going to honor your prayer and I'm going to honor your praise.
Amen.
He said, because the last thing I left for you to do is to praise me. He said, matter of fact, the only thing that I need from you as far as sacrifice is praise. He said, I need you to audibly bring it out of your lips. I need people to be able to hear and understand what you're saying about me. I need people to know that I have brought you out. I need them to know that you are blessed because of God, not because you're so smart, because there are people 10 times smarter than you living under the bridge right now. He wants you to know and be sure to let people know this is God. Amen. I'm here because of God. I'm here not because of myself, not because I'm so smart, not because I did everything right, not even because of my works, not because I'm a deacon, not because I'm sitting in the pew. He said, I want them to know that because you pray and you praise me and you honor me and you worship me, that I am honoring that and that I can come in supernaturally and change your situation even in the darkest hours where other people would give up. He said, that's when I can bring you out. Amen. 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 He said, but you got to tell somebody about it. Amen. They overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the what? And the word of the testimony. He said, you got to tell somebody. You got to tell somebody. Well, I keep wondering, a new company is kind of small and it don't seem to be growing. Oh, yeah, then all we got to do is start telling some people and it'll grow. You know why? Because I know the testimonies that are sitting right here in the midst of us. If you start telling some folks want what you got. Folks need what you've already been through and you've been preserved through. So if you begin to tell somebody, it'll begin to grow. We don't have to go on Facebook. We don't have to advertise. We don't have to do anything. We can just begin to tell people about the goodness of God. Amen. 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 Tell them about the goodness of God. You need to start opening your mouth and tell them about. Matter of fact, you need to tell each other about the goodness of God. We worried about you witnessing and testifying to people unknown. You need to testify and witness to people you do know. That's where you practice. It's okay every now and then say, Danielle, do you know, girl, the other Sunday you were singing and worshiping and the Spirit came all over me. I felt a tingling in my body when I got home. I didn't have no pain. I ain't had no sickness. God healed me right there and He has set me free and I've been running ever since. Daniel, it's okay to look at Debbie every now and then and say, girl, this week has been a tough week, but I thought this was going to happen, and God came in, and God did such and such, and God sent somebody, and God gave me a job. And then, well, how do you know it was God? Because couldn't nobody else know or couldn't nobody else do it. Amen. But Him. Amen. Amen. Yeah. We need to give Him praise. Practice on somebody that you do know. Amen. So that it becomes easier to tell somebody you don't know. Amen. Be one of them folks that when you're in McDonald's and somebody says, hey, how you doing? I'm blessed. Highly favored. Do you know that God, this week they'll be like, oh, Lord, it was just a figure of speech. I really didn't want to know. But since you asked, let me tell you. Let me tell you. We need to get to a place to where, guess what? If people can praise the devil by cussing and using profanity anywhere and everywhere, we ought to be able to praise God by blessing Him and magnifying Him and exalting Him and giving Him glory. awesome God. He's almighty.